Making headlines this hour, President Dr. Mohamed Muizzu announces that the Hope Island rehabilitation project for at-risk youth exposed to criminal environments will be launched soon. President Dr. Mohamed Muizzu states that the negative influences of illicit narcotics that previously existed within the police institutions have been thoroughly eliminated. India waives export duties on petroleum products for certain neighboring countries, including the Maldives, through an amendment published in the Gazette of India.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to PSM News in English with me, Hafiz Abdul Sattar. Now the news in detail. President Dr. Mohamed Muizzu announces that the Hope Island rehabilitation project for at-risk youth exposed to criminal environments will be launched soon. President Dr. Muizzu made the announcement while speaking on the third episode of the Pulse podcast series. Speaking on the podcast, the President highlighted factors that lead youth to commit a crime and said the project addresses the root cause of crime rather than only its consequences. According to the President, these efforts include solving housing issues, creating income-generating opportunities for young people, and supporting small business development. Hope Island will be developed on 15 hectares of reclaimed land in Utur Tilafaru and is designed to accommodate up to 700 people. It aims to rehabilitate children by providing basic education, religious education, psychosocial intervention and therapy programs, as well as contact sport programs. The center will provide vocational training, sports facilities and healthcare services. President Muizzu said funding for the project has taken time to secure, but proposals are currently being evaluated and implementation will begin soon. He said the government intends to complete the project during its current term. The government has previously stated that children admitted to Hope Island will remain there until they turn 18, after which they will be required to serve for a period in either the Maldives Police Service or the Maldives National Defence Force. President Dr. Mohamed Muizzu states that the government is pursuing modern solutions to strengthen rehabilitation and reintegration of young offenders.
The President made the remarks in the third episode of the Pulse podcast, which focused on the national response to drug abuse. He said the government's core policy is not only to protect young people from drug addiction, but also to ensure those already affected are rehabilitated and given the opportunity to return to society as productive, respected, and self-reliant citizens. President Muizzu noted that there are numerous factors driving people towards drug abuse, stressing that the problem can only be solved by identifying and addressing its underlying root causes. He explained that housing difficulties and shortcomings in development policies are among the structural issues contributing to the problem. He said the government's response therefore extends beyond law enforcement and rehabilitation programs. Measures include addressing housing needs, expanding employment opportunities, creating new income-generating prospects for young people, and supporting small businesses. The President also highlighted initiatives aimed at strengthening individual self-reliance, creating opportunities for women to earn an income while working from home, improving the country's healthcare system, and expanding access to education. He said these initiatives are all designed to tackle the root cause that lead young people into drug abuse and crime. President Muizzu revealed that the government is developing a modern rehabilitation project to enhance the reintegration of young offenders into society. Although the initiative will require significant investment, he said land has been allocated in North Tilafaru for the project as part of wider efforts to ease housing pressures in Malé. Providing an update on the project, the President said considerable time has been spent securing financing. Proposals submitted for the projects are currently under evaluation, and he expressed hope that implementation would begin without significant delay allowing tangible progress to be seen during the current presidential term. The episode also featured President Muizzu responding to public concerns relating to the day's topic. The Pulse podcast is hosted by the government's chief spokesperson Mohammad Hussain Sharif and follows a format in which the president shares his view on key national issues and answers questions submitted by a moderator on behalf of the public.
President Dr. Mohammad Muizzu states a rehabilitation system designed to reintegrate drug users into society must operate with community participation and adhere strictly to Islamic principles.
The narcotics epidemic remains the most deeply rooted and enduring crisis facing the nation, requiring the collective cooperation of the public to achieve a comprehensive solution, President Muizzu observed during the third episode of the podcast The Pulse. The president maintained, addressing the underlying factors of the crisis stands as the administration's primary priority. He underscored, resolving this crisis necessitates the unified collaboration of society encompassing families, civil society organizations, and state institutions. The president explained, the administration aims to rescue the youth currently ensnared in the crisis, ensuring those who recover are provided with the avenues to build dignified and honorable lives. The rehabilitation framework must provide a guarantee that affected youth will not revert to substance abuse upon their reintegration, the president declared. He argues, because the nation stands firmly upon the noble religion of Islam, foundational principles must inherently be Islamic ones. The president concluded, the system must foster a love for religious values, instill a profound belief in faith, and cultivate a resolute determination to abandon destructive behaviors in accordance with Islamic tenets.
President Dr. Mohammad Muizzu states the negative influences of illicit narcotics that previously existed within the police institution have been thoroughly eliminated and the law enforcement service itself has been further strengthened.
These remarks were delivered during his appearance on the third episode of the Pulse podcast series. The president noted that significant efforts have been undertaken over the past 2.5 years to expand the operational capacity of the police to rescue the nation from the drug epidemic. He maintained that the primary objective of these initiatives was to establish a systematic framework capable of addressing narcotics violations directly from within police departments, thereby empowering the force. The president observed, upon assuming office and conducting an initial review, adverse influences were identified within the police's drug enforcement division. He underscored, opportunities to engage in such nefarious activities have now been entirely dismantled. The president asserted, ongoing administrative efforts to resolve gang criminality and drug-related offences are yielding positive results. He explained that the number of individuals participating in gang crimes has decreased and gang-related homicides has seen a substantial decline. Various government agencies are operating collaboratively, and the president noted that a permanent resolution to the narcotics crisis will ultimately be achieved.
The National Drug Agency states more than 1,000 individuals are currently enrolled in the National Drug Treatment System, with ongoing efforts to expand opportunities for as many applicants as possible.
Strengthening initiatives to rescue the community from the drug epidemic remains a premier internal security priority for the current administration. According to the Ministry of Homeland Security, Labour and Technology, parallel operations conducted over the past 2 years to interdict border narcotics resulted in the seizure of more than 320 kilograms of illegal substances, while upwards of 140 related cases have been formally filed over the past 4 years. A total of 1,082 individuals are presently completing rehabilitation under agency supervision, Ahmad Siddiq, the chairman of the National Drug Agency, noted during an appearance on the PSM news program Raja Miyadu. The agency administers 7 distinct programs integrating center-based, semi-residential and community rehabilitation tracks. The chairman asserted acute infrastructure and human resource shortages leave 710 prospective patients on the waiting list. To expand national access, strategic initiatives will develop regional facilities, cultivate vocational skills, and secure employment for recovering individuals. He maintained that robust community cooperation remains vital to achieve a permanent resolution.
India waives export duties on petroleum products for certain neighboring countries, including Maldives, through an amendment published in the Gazette of India. The duty waiver applies to the Special Additional Excise Duty (SAED) and the Road and Infrastructure (RIC). The Maldives has been added to the list of countries eligible for these duty concessions alongside Bhutan, Nepal and Bangladesh following an amendment to India's duty law. The move comes as disruptions to trade through the Strait of Hormuz have affected Middle Eastern business and the global energy market. The Maldives, which normally imports most of its oil from Oman, Singapore, Malaysia and the UAE, has discussed sourcing oil from neighboring India amid the disruptions. The Maldivian government has not yet officially commented on the duty concessions. According to the Ministry of Islamic Affairs and Endowments, the fifth round of the ongoing program designed to train young khatibs is scheduled to commence this coming week.
Khatibs are individuals designated in the Islamic tradition to deliver the formal public sermons or khutbah. The ministry stated the Young Khatib training program is one of the highest priority initiatives executed by the ministry under the leadership of President Dr. Mohammad Muizzu, aimed at resolving the shortage of preachers in island communities while expanding vital opportunity for the nation's youth. Ali Wahid, the Deputy Minister of Islamic Affairs and Endowments, noted that 4 previous iterations of the initiative have already been successfully completed, and this impending round will train an additional 80 participants. The available slots have been evenly distributed, with 40 allocated for participants from the Greater Male region and another 40 reserved for the outer atolls. The Deputy Minister added, training session for students applying from the Male area will be hosted physically at the ministry, while participants joining from the atolls will conduct their coursework online. The Deputy Minister anticipates that 2 preparatory rounds will be successfully conducted by 13 September to ensure the participation of 1,000 khatibs. More than 600 individuals have earned certification to date.
Payment Maldives Private Limited announces the Maldives Instant Payment System, known as Favara, has successfully processed 6.49 billion US in transactions thus far.
As a subsidiary of the Maldives Monetary Authority, the entity developed a secure, rapid architecture that officially commenced operations on the 26th August 2023. The platform aims to extend financial accessibility to unbanked populations and account holders at all domestic banking institutions, ensuring the conveniences of modern digital finance are distributed equitably. The sheer volume of transactions serves as a clear indicator of the system's overarching success. Mariam Shaba, the Chief Operating Officer and Acting Chief Executive Officer of Payment Maldives, noted during an exclusive interview with PSM News. The transfer function permits funds to be deposited between banks within seconds. Private individuals and commercial enterprises may issue bills and execute financial transactions utilizing the platform's integrated request feature. Operational effort to expand the suite of service remain ongoing. Attendees visiting the Maldives Financial Expo at Hurumala Central Park can acquire additional information regarding the payment ecosystem at the Maldives Monetary Authority stall.
A Moscow car dealership struggles to keep up with the demand for new electric vehicles as drivers look to sidestep a fuel crisis that has led to long queues and soaring prices across much of Russia.
Escalating Ukrainian strikes on Russian energy infrastructure have squeezed gasoline and diesel supplies in recent weeks, prompting restrictions in most regions. Retail gasoline prices in some areas have climbed to among the highest levels in Europe. Russia's vast distances, harsh climate, and limited charging networks have curbed the growth of its EV market. But the mounting fuel challenges are leading some motorists to make the switch. Founder Yevgeny Zebelin told Reuters that EN Cars, which specializes in Chinese brands, is selling 2 to 3 EVs per day compared to 2 to 3 a month just a few weeks ago. In the showroom, prospective buyers inspected electrical SUVs made by Chinese automaker Geely. With fuel prices up more than 12% year-on-year between January and May, demand for EVs was already increasing. According to analytical agency Autostat and the Ministry of Industry and Trade, about 24,600 new plug-in hybrids were sold in the first 5 months of the year, up 125% year-on-year, while sales on new fully electrical cars rose 19% to 4,460. According to Autostat chief Sergei Selikov, sales accelerated further in June as fuel shortages hit. Last week, 1,754 new plug-in hybrids were registered, up nearly a third from the previous week and nearly 50% above the average weekly pace this year. According to digital map service 2GIS, the number of charging stations in Russia increased 20% in the year to July 2026. Sitting in the dealership, customer Vasily said he was pleased he has already bought a hybrid and an EV.
International delegates participate in a farewell ceremony for Iran's late Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei.
Iran's ruling clerics are preparing days of mass funeral rites for Khamenei as a show of public devotion to the Islamic Republic and proof that its revolutionary fervor still burns strong. Iran's supreme leader was killed by the United States and Israeli strikes in their first attack of the war, and the funeral events will begin over the weekend in Tehran, with mass processions planned next week in Qom and Mashhad and ceremonies in Iraq. Khamenei's death and the succession of his son Mujtaba as Iran's third supreme leader in a conflict with its greatest foes mark an epochal moment in the Islamic Republic's 47-year-old history. Mujtaba, severely wounded in the strike that killed his father, has not been seen in any new image since the war began.
EU Foreign Chief Kaja Kallas says the EU is determined to find a strong candidate for the post of International Peace Envoy for Bosnia and Herzegovina to replace a German diplomat who resigned in May under what he described as US pressure.
Last month, countries failed to reach a consensus on a successor for Christian Schmidt as High Representative for Bosnia and Herzegovina, a post with wide powers in the country since the 1990s under international agreements that ended the war there. The role has always been held by a European with a US deputy.
We are determined to find a European candidate who can help move Bosnia and Herzegovina forward on this European path. The fastest way to get rid of the international supervision is progress towards the European Union. Shortly after this press conference, I will meet with the troops serving the operation EUFOR Althea. The mission remains a cornerstone of stability in the Western Balkans. Peace in Bosnia and Herzegovina has held for 3 decades, but it's still not taken for granted.
The US, which has announced that the US-led nation-building era has passed, has made clear that it wants a new envoy with a more limited mandate. It supported Italian diplomat Antonio Zanardi Landi for the job, while most European countries supported French diplomat René Trocaz. The United States has said it would reconsider its role in Bosnia and Herzegovina unless its preferred candidate is approved. Earlier this week, Schmidt's deputy, Louis Christhoek, was named as the acting High Representative until a new envoy is appointed by July 14th at the latest. Bosnia is at the bottom of a queue of the Western Balkan hopefuls aspiring to join the EU, as it has stalled its reform progress due to political blockades over the past 2 years. The EU foreign chief said Bosnia has already lost 108 million euros in EU funding from the bloc's 6 billion euro growth plan for the region and was facing the risk of losing an additional 370 million euros unless it proceeds with necessary reforms. Bosnia is divided into 2 political entities, one controlled by ethnic Serbs and one controlled by Bosniaks and Croats, with a weak central government supervised by the international envoy. The Bosnian Serb representatives in state institutions has been consistently blocking EU-related reforms, with their nationalist pro-Russian leadership dismissing EU accession and turning to the US administration for support.
Tottenham Hotspur signs Portugal international Matheus Fernandez from West Ham United.
Spurs beat competition from Manchester United to secure the 21-year-old midfielder, with the transfer fee understood to be a club record £85 million or $113.44 million, according to British media reports. Fernandez joined West Ham from Southampton in 2025 in a deal worth more than £40 million and made 38 Premier League appearances last season. A product of Sporting CP's academy, Fernandez spent a season on loan at Portuguese top-flight side Estoril, where he made 35 appearances and helped the club reach their first cup final in 80 years before joining Southampton in 2024 for a reported £15 million. Fernandez made his international debut in a friendly against Mexico in April, but was left out of Portugal's World Cup squad. Spurs have now signed 5 players during the summer transfer window, including veteran goalkeeper Martin Dubravka, who joined De Zerbi's side on the July 1st.
Penalty shootouts have always been football's cruelest mind game, a nerve-shredding work into noise, doubt and national dread. What has changed over recent years is not the pressure, but the preparation. At this World Cup, players, coaches and goalkeepers are increasingly treating penalties less as a lottery than as a specialized discipline with enormous rewards.
Germany and the Netherlands have already learned that the hard way, exiting in the round of 32 after shootout defeats by Paraguay and Morocco. For Rea Jedot, professor at the Norwegian School of Sports Science and the author of Pressure, a book on penalty psychology, the old line that penalties are a lottery should be locked in a cupboard with all leather balls. In a successful World Cup campaign, facing a penalty shootout is almost inevitable, Jedot told Reuters. Penalty shootouts are unforgiving and ruthless. In Pressure, Jedot gathered video of all 718 shots from every men's penalty shootout at the World Cup, European Championship and Champions League from the introduction of shootouts in 1970 through 2023. His research found that 53% of players who missed behave in a similar way afterwards, making themselves look smaller, fall into the ground, hiding their faces in their hands, looking down or avoiding their teammates as they walked back. England know the trauma too well.
The question is always, how do you deal with these emotions? How do you manage to refocus, cope, and basically put your mind at the task at hand and the kick? And that's when you need to also look for other types of behavioral clues.
Despite all the practice and analysis, though, somewhere in this tournament, another young player's career is likely to be defined by his shot from 12 yards.
And that's all we have for this hour. Thank you for watching. Wish you all a very pleasant day ahead.